Alright, today we're going to do a couple egg things. We're going to poach an egg. I was surprised at the number of people that wanted to know how to poach an egg. So we're going to poach an egg, and then we're going to make a souffle omelette. We'll make two different flavored souffle omelets. Um, Omelette can be intimidating and souffle can be intimidating, but the souffle omelette kind of takes the hardest out of each one of them and gives you the easiest part of each one of them. So it's actually a lot easier than it sounds. So to poach an egg, we really only need two pieces of equipment: a slotted spoon and a pot with water. Alright, so I have a small pot. I'm only going to poach one egg. If you wanted to poach a bunch of eggs, you could use a pan like this, 3/4 full of water. If you're worried about poaching a bunch of eggs at the same time, you can use a pan like this, and then maybe something like this, and just fill it full of room temperature water and keep it beside. And then as your eggs are poached, you can take them out, put them in this room temperature water, and if you have to fill it with some things or get some other things ready, then you can just take them out, cycle them back in the hot water for like 20 or 30 seconds and use them, and it'd be fine. So you can poach 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 eggs at the same time. But I'm just going to poach one egg, so I just have this small pot. So I'm going to put a little bit of coarse sea salt in my pot. I like to use a coarse salt because it doesn't have that kind of puckering up taste that you get from like a refined iodized salt. It just tastes more salty. It doesn't get puckering or that bitter flavor. And you have to put a little bit of vinegar. I'll put about half a teaspoon, I guess. And this isn't a measurable thing, just a small shot. For stuff like this, I have here a rice vinegar. I like the delicate fruitiness of rice vinegar. You could use any vinegar, but why not use a better vinegar? Use a white wine vinegar or a rice vinegar. You don't want to use things like balsamic vinegar or red wine vinegars, because then they're going to impart a lot of flavor that maybe you don't want. And of course, eventually your eggs will look a little funny if you use something like a balsamic vinegar. If you had to, you could use a little bit of lemon juice. Using a good vinegar like this, I don't find it's a problem with the flavor of the egg. If vinegar bothers you or you don't like it, again, just have another little pan of tepid water and just cycle your egg through that after it comes out of this pot here. So eggs, if you buy a better egg, it tastes better. It's really simple as that. I'm not really content with the kind of cheap eggs at the supermarket. I find you move up 1 or 2 levels in quality, you get a better egg. It doesn't necessarily, for me, have to be free run this or free range this or that. I just find moving up a little bit gives you a better egg, and you can find the egg that you like. So, a slotted spoon. If you run out and buy a slotted spoon just for this, or you have a brand new slotted spoon, or every time you take your eggs out or use a slotted spoon you find you're breaking the egg, you might have a little burr of metal. My slotted spoon is pretty old and worn, it's pretty smooth, but you might find that. You might take a look at it and see you have a little thing there. Take a little piece of sandpaper and fix it up. So, I want my water to be just boiling, but not really, kind of like a little, like this on the top. Alright, so I'm just going to turn this down a little bit, and I'm going to crack my egg. I want to crack it and get it as close as I possibly can to the water so it doesn't drop. And if the water stops a little, simmering a little bit, that's okay, it'll come back. I want to poach my egg about 3 minutes. If you're intimidated by cracking the egg, crack it into a small dish, and then take it and just gently put it inside the water. That's a good tip too if you're poaching a bunch of eggs. Then you don't have this thing where you feel you have to be cracking the egg really fast and maybe you drop it or something like that. So like I said, about 3 minutes for my egg. I'll get rid of the shell there. Again, I might want to adjust it down just a little bit. If you get a lot of this froth, I'm not really getting much here. You don't want to touch the egg right now, but you can always take that froth off. Sometimes you get a lot, you can take it off. So, except for the time it takes the water to boil, 3 minutes, 4 minutes if you want a firmer egg. Poached eggs on toast. Poached egg is nice on a leafy salad, like a spinach salad or a salad made with maybe like romaine lettuce. It can add a little more luxurious feel, a little bit of protein to your salad. Poached egg is nice on, say, like a pizza, like a kind of pizza that might have like a bunch of arugula on top. A poached egg on top of the pizza is really nice too. Yeah. So, after a minute or two, you'll be able to pick up your egg. It's not quite there yet. Okay, so a couple times in the 3 minutes here, I've just adjusted my heat down as it started to bubble too much. Better to have it a little less than too much, because we don't want to damage the egg or have it at a golden boil or anything like that. So I'll pick my egg up, a little jiggle. The yolk is soft, the white is a little firmer. That's going to be about fine for me. And there we have a nicely poached egg. Really quick, really easy, and a great way to add protein to something. So I'll just break this here. You can see the yolk run out. That's the way I would like it. Another minute would make it a little more firm. Alright, here it is. Simple poached egg. You can do this. Alright, the souffled omelette. I'm going to make a 2-egg souffled omelette. Because of how we're making it, it gets really big and fluffy. So that's enough for me to have for my dinner, or 2 people could cut it in half and have it with maybe some fried potatoes or things like that, or some grilled vegetables. I've got my convection oven set to 400 degrees. If you didn't have a convection oven, just go a little hotter, maybe about 425. And I've got my pan in the oven. Because again, I don't just want to heat up my pan, I want a really deep heat that will help the egg not stick, and the egg will be on the edge of the pan, and I want that nice and hot too. So when I heat up my oven, I heat up my pan. So I'm going to put the flavors of the Mediterranean in my omelette. Everyone likes different things in their omelette. You can put whatever you like, of course. I'm going to roast some eggplant and this little piece of red pepper here. And there's always a couple cues to how you're going to flavor things up. Geography is a good cue for us. Like I said, the flavors of the Mediterranean. I could use also maybe sun-dried tomatoes and olives, or maybe a little pesto or some basil leaves. Maybe you have a certain thing that you have in your fridge. Maybe you have a piece of chicken breast. You could use blue cheese and avocado, and maybe a piece of bacon, and then you have the flavors of a Cobb salad. A lot of classic things go together, like say some sauteed mushrooms and Swiss cheese, or broccoli and cheddar cheese. There's always a couple cues. Maybe you have some black beans and some salsa and some jack cheese, and you have the flavors of the Southwest. You could put some corn in something like that as well. There's always a couple cues to the flavor. So, people will say, well, I don't know what to put into it, but take the cues that are there for you. So I'm going to take this eggplant and cube it up about a ½ an inch. Maybe I'll take a little more. I like the Japanese eggplant because you get more of the edge. And vegetables like this, you want to cook when you put in your omelette, because they have a lot of water and they won't cook in the omelette, and they will water out and make your omelette soggy. So I'm just going to toss these. I don't have to be too precise about how they're cut up. I'm just going to toss these with a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of coarse salt, and a little sprinkle of oregano. Those a little mix up. Now let's put them on this sheet here. I'll spread them out. Maybe I need a little more olive oil. Eggplant's pretty spongy. I put a parchment paper on there so it's easy to clean the pan and take them off when I'm done. And I'll just fire them in the 400 degree oven. It'll just take about 5 minutes. So I'm going to be whipping some egg whites. So you want to use a metal bowl. You don't want to use a plastic bowl. Plastics are petroleum products and oil, and egg yolks have a lot of oil. And on a molecular level, they're very similar, and things that are similar like to stick together. So you might find that sometimes when you put a plastic container in your dishwasher, it doesn't come out, it comes out with that oily film. And because we're whipping the egg whites, we don't want any oils because that will retard their rising as we whip them up. Glass bowl is just plain really smooth, a lot smoother than you can perceive the metal bowl being. So we want to use a metal bowl, we want to be very clean. When we're going to crack eggs and separate them, you almost always want to make sure you don't get any yolks in the white. So always use a small dish and separate your eggs. So again, I'll do 2. If I wanted to really fill my pan up, I could use 3 or 4, but 2 will be fine. And I will put these in the bowl like this. I'll put the yolks aside. I'll put a little bit of coarse salt in my whites. Put them in my metal bowl. And for a couple egg whites, I'll mix them by hand. Why not? It's good for you. Probably take about 2 minutes. There we go. Alright, now I'll discard the whisk. We don't want to use the whisk when we're mixing stuff with the egg whites because we'll actually start to deflate the egg whites. Let me check out these vegetables here.
Okay.
Alright, here's our vegetables out of the oven. I said about 5 minutes, but they probably took about 10. So just, yeah, I misjudged. So there's our vegetables, our egg whites, and our egg yolks, and we'll put some feta cheese, and we'll put some chickpeas. So we're going to sacrifice some of our whites here into the yolks for the good of the omelette. And we'll mix this more vigorously, and then when we transfer it, it'll be lighter, and we won't mix this as vigorously, so we won't deflate it as much. Better off to have it a little bit undermixed than overmixed, and we want to kind of fold it gently at this point. So I will put some black pepper. I won't put any salt because the feta cheese is pretty salty, and I put some salt on the vegetables, and tinned chickpeas can have a little bit of salt too, so I'm putting about 2 spoonfuls of chickpeas, about a 1/4 cup of feta cheese, and then I'll put our roasted vegetables. I can use the paper to kind of slide them off. And again, I'm not going to overmix it. Just some folds like that. And if it's like 80% mixed, that's good enough. So remember, our pan is very hot. Remember, the handle is very hot. Something like this, I'll almost keep my hand here, just so I don't forget. I'm going to put about a tablespoon or 2 of olive oil. I wouldn't recommend butter for this. The pan's going to be way too hot. You could use vegetable oil or a shortening. And I want to get the oil up on the sides of the pan because that's where our omelet will be as well. So I want to make sure we got it nice and covered. And then I'll just put that in there. You can hear a little sizzle already. I don't even have to have the burner on. And I'll give it a little shake. You can see how it's not sticking because my pan is nicely seasoned. It's been in the oven for like 15 minutes. And I'll put this in. And I'll probably check it twice. I'll probably check it in about 2 minutes and just touch it. Everybody has an idea of how they want their eggs cooked, well done, a little softer, creamy. So you'll have to find your own way. So I'll check it in about 2 minutes. Let's take a look. You can see it's not sticking at all. I'll give it a little touch. Pretty soft, maybe another minute. You might wonder, or the question might be, why didn't I just cook the peppers and the eggplant in the frying pan? If you're going to cook things and put them in your omelet, or your souffle omelet, always cook them in a separate pan, or like I cooked it on that flat pan or a frying pan or whatever, because your vegetables might leave a little bit of residue on the bottom of the pan. and your eggs will stick to that. They won't stick to the pan, but they'll stick to what the vegetables have left on the bottom of the pan. So it's just a way to make it not stick. If I had cooked the eggplant and peppers in that pan, it might be a little sticky. So there you go. All right, that's another minute. We can see it's actually getting a little bit brown. It's a little bit soft. That's kind of how I like it. Let's get a plate here. If you wanted to make it nice and even, you could just slide it right out onto the plate. You can see it's going to slide. Or we could fold it over. I'll use the pan for this a little bit. Kind of give it a little tilt, a little fold, and slide it right out. So there we have souffle omelette with some Mediterranean flavors. I might have a green salad and a slice of whole wheat toast with this. So I think you can do it. I think you can make a Mediterranean flavored souffle omelette. So we're going to make our broccoli and cheese souffle omelette. And like I said, maybe some mushrooms and cheese, or if you like peppers or things like this would all go as well. So I'm just going to take a little bit of broccoli. Oh, maybe a little more. I like to put a lot of vegetables and things like this because it's a good way just to eat more vegetables. So again, we want to cook the broccoli ahead of time. I like pieces about like this. And it's going to be a really easy cook. I have a small pot. I will put my broccoli, inside. No reason why I can't use these pieces as well. And I will put just the smallest little bit of butter. Half a teaspoon maybe, probably less. And I will put just a little bit of water, maybe again like half a teaspoon of water. Just a pinch of coarse salt. And put that on a hot burner. And as soon as I get some steam, my broccoli will be cooked enough for my omelet. It's very simple. And again, I'm not cooking this in the pan, because I cooked it in the pan, I might get some residue on the pan and the omelet would stick. So I cook it in a separate pot. So we go back to our egg whites. So I think I'll do this and whip the egg whites, because that's a long 2 or 3 minutes of me standing there whipping the egg whites. Alright, so this has just been, I see the steam come out. It's only going to be about 30 seconds or so. I put so little water in there. You can see the water's pretty much gone, and it's still nice and crisp and green and ready for our souffled omelet. So I'll just put that there. Alright, so we got stiff peaks. We'll lose the whisk. Again, we'll sacrifice a small portion of our egg whites into the yolks so we can lighten them up. Back into the egg whites. We're taking our hot pan out of the oven. Again, careful of the handle. About a 1/4 cup of cheddar cheese. And again, you could use any cheese you want. Don't be locked into a certain kind of cheese. If you don't have it, you can use something else. And our broccoli, which is nicely steamed, right in there. And again, I don't want to overmix it. Undermixed is fine, 80%, 75% mixed. A couple gentle folds. A little bit of olive oil in our hot pan. Give it a swirl around. Make sure it goes, again, I need a little more, I think. Make sure it gets up on the sides, because the omelet will be up on the sides of our pan. And I could probably go to 4 eggs in this pan. If you wanted to do more than 4 eggs, you'd probably need quite a bigger pan. I wouldn't use one smaller, even for 2 eggs. You can see how it fills up the pan. I will put a little cracked pepper. And in this one, I will put a little pinch of fine sea salt. And we'll put it right in there. We'll spread it out a little bit. See how it starts to slide already? And into the oven. And again, I'll check it at about 2 or 3 minutes. All right, that's been about 3 minutes, 4 minutes maybe. That's done. Oh, that's not sliding so much. Sometimes there'll be the small piece of cheese at the bottom of it that isn't coated with the egg enough, and it might be a little sticky. But, oh yeah, it's gonna come here. If it is a little sticky, it's probably just gonna be like, again, a couple little spots of the cheese. So you can take your lifter, yeah, and you see, we just free it up really simply. Get under there, give it a nice big fold, slide it onto our plate. Now you can see, just a couple spots of stuck. But again, that's not gonna be a problem if you can get under there. It won't wreck your omelet, or don't worry about it. So there is our broccoli and cheddar cheese souffled omelet. You can make this. You can do this too. You can make a broccoli and cheddar cheese souffled omelet.